Well, hello,
What?
Jill. My gosh.
Gosh, it's been like what, 3, 4 whole days since we've seen each other?
I'm just minding my own business here, surfing screwdrivers on eBay, and then all of a sudden you turn my camera on. We're doing a podcast. I've got time. How are you?
Good, good. Recovering,
Yeah.
recovering from
How's
the
your from Firegate? It was almost Firegate. That's what I'm going to call it. But
it. We got lucky.
we did.
We got lucky. So if you're just tuning in and you're wondering what Tobe and I are talking about, we are talking about last weekend was Sasquatch Summerfest down in Oak Ridge, Oregon, and it was hot. I mean that literally and figuratively for so many reasons. Is that me talking in the background? What was that?
I think we just had a little reverb going on my secondary screen, but go right ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, it was what did you call it? Firegate? Is that what you referred to it
Well,
as?
listen, there's something else going on now. When I was a kid, we never had a fire season, but now we have snow, we have leaves, we have rain, we have spring, and then we have a fire season out here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if people in Ohio necessarily experience this or Mississippi, but it's just one of these things that if you're not from around this area, it's a little bit of a learning curve. Still a learning curve for most of us because we didn't grow up with it around. But yeah, we had some challenges. We overcame them. That which was a bit of smoke coming in from the northeast direction, and everyone was safe and sound. We had a good time. It didn't really last that long. It was just kind of extreme during certain parts of the afternoon, but um, I'm better for it. How about you?
Um, I'm not gonna lie. It was I enjoyed the heat, I enjoyed the outdoors, but it was a rough weekend. It was hot.
Hmm.
Not in the typical Oregonian hot summer. It was brutal. Like even I into the evening, I was just sweating. I'm like, what is happening here? And it was smoky. I mean, I know a lot of people were having like breathing, like respiratory issues and whatnot. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's awesome to rock your stylish bandanas and whatnot. So I guess it worked out in that sense. But I don't know. When we came home, everything smelled like smoke in
Did it
a
really?
it had a hint of forest fire. Like if that was a candle scent, I don't know, like
Yeah.
burning driftwood. Uh,
I don't know. I kind of into it. Like I'm into the smell of gasoline, especially on water at a fresh dock. I'm into the smell of fresh grass clippings. I'm in the smell of rain on a summer day on the pavement. But I'm also into the smell of massive forest fires. So, call me crazy, but I get it. It was a lot, and you'd never know what happened up here. I mean, it's like 55 and rained last night, but um, we do have a fire season up here as well. I mean, last year the sun, we couldn't even see the sun,
that's
um,
right.
and so it does happen up here as well.
But there were some great takeaways, and we'll get into that soon. But one of the saving graces of Oak Ridge, Oregon's Sasquatch Summerfest, which we will talk more about in just a moment. Um, this kind of hit on a couple levels because it was damn hot, and I don't know how much water you drank over the weekend, but I was burning through it pretty quick. Um, and it, the timing of it, everything happens for a reason, but we met some really amazing vendors at the conference who, they helped us realize, not only can we help you now, but we can help your viewers because we realize that our audience doesn't need these ads we were putting in for better help online therapy. The real issue is we needed to stay hydrated, and the good folks at Bigfoot P, That's Oregon Mountain Fresh. It says spring water, but in the spirit of fun things, yeah, they hooked us up. They kept us hydrated, and you guys should totally check them out. And I can even, I don't know, there's a QR code right there.
Oh, there you go. Scan that code. And I'll just mention real quick while you're showing off the bottle, Jill, is that a friend of mine who's a distributor at 7-Eleven out of Eugene, Oregon, my buddy Mike Beavers, who made a miraculous yet dark discovery recently near Cottage Grove, got to talking to said owner of Bigfoot P, and which is trademarked, by the way. Um, and is going to be carried in the 7-Eleven over off of, I believe, Whitaker and Blair, close to 6th Avenue in Eugene. Oh, you know the store. And this is where you can, I mean, Bigfoot pee, a lot of people say it should be hot and frothy. It needs to be a little, put your Bigfoot pee on ice. Bigfoot pee with Fresca. I mean, there's a little squirt of lemon, someone told me, is the key.
Well, it's refreshing. They were the saving grace for the weekend, keeping everyone hydrated, and they had a pretty dope shirt selection too. The daughter had designed a bunch of their Hawaiian shirts. Did you take a look at those?
Yeah, they had it all going on. I did.
Yeah, yeah. So more on that later. We'll have to secure a shirt for you for the future. But just want to
And they're
give you
neighbors too. They're not far from you. Like they're within 15 minutes, right?
Are they?
Yeah, I think they live in Milwaukee.
Oh, that's on the other side. We're on opposite
Yeah.
sides of town.
Okay.
But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, you time it right, you can get right over there.
I just they were super cool. Like I met it's a daughter and father operation from what I could tell. And the dad, I didn't know that he was like the proprietor of the P. And so we started talking about everything else other than his P. And then we got to the wood carvings and the booth. And then I bought a bicycle. How can we forget this? On Sunday, I randomly just went down the street, and I was like, I miss having a bicycle. So I bought a $40 bicycle. I love it, and I was riding it around, and I stopped by the Bigfoot pee booth just because I wanted to buy a couple because it was my kiddo's birthday, and so we got to talking, and before I knew it, I had 3 cases of pee. And anyway, we hope to be talking more about Bigfoot P and a flash of beauty along the way. But regardless, cheers.
Cheers
Mm.
to Bigfoot and
It
Pete.
actually is from it's a catchy, fun name. It's not a novelty item as much as it is kind of like um, it's hydration with humor. I mean, some people think they need to attach death to liquid. I'm saying attach humor to hydration. That's their angle, and I'm just helping them present it this way. I hope I did it justice. And their little moniker on the side is "Made by Believers for Believers," and it's a really cute little logo on
It
there.
is.
So you can order a bottle from the website at bigfootp.com, or you can go to one of their distributors, including Ace Hardware, certain branches in and around Oregon right now, or you can order a case and just give it out as a gift to people along the way. Keep it in your trailer if you're a squatcher. It's just, there's a lot of Bigfoot beers out there. Why shouldn't there be water?
Well said.
Okay.
Well said. Looking at my notes here. Okay.
Oh, is that what's happening?
I know. I keep looking down. I'm not. I'm not like checking text messages or anything like that. So yeah, Oak Ridge was amazing. We showed. We screened both movies. Friday night, Saturday night. Friday night, A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. Saturday, A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. Um, Other than that, we've talked about the movies. You guys know all about those. Great turnout of really cool speakers who showed up. Let's do a recap of everyone there. First and foremost, it was the first annual Sasquatch Summerfest, and Priscilla Roseman put that together. And her father, Ronnie Roseman, now he's had a lot of experiences. He's kind of a fixture, a character, would you say, in the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot community?
Yeah, he's a Oak Ridge staple and a Pacific Northwest legend. I just he told me to say that. No, that's the truth.
You're having to check the wording, like, oh gosh, is
Yeah,
Ronnie
right, right,
watching?
right.
Yeah, and actually, we had our booth next to him, and he was just rocking out on his guitar the whole time. So that was nice. So we had a little acoustic jam going on next to us. Let's see here, who else? We had, of course, Todd Neese, and Todd had a fantastic presentation. Did you listen to it at all? Were you tuned in? Were you around for that?
Well, you know how it is when you have a booth. You're
Yeah.
tied to. Sometimes people hang out, and so I think I was in the hangout mode. No offense to any speakers, they know what it's like. It's different than when you're in the audience. So, but I did catch the theme of what Todd was talking about, which I thought was a nice little rabbit hole that I'm going to have to stick his head farther down into. But go ahead, talk more about it.
Todd is doing a really great job with his latest research, really bridging the sciencey flesh and blood community and the supernatural, paranormal things going on around Sasquatch encounters, and he's finding some middle ground uh, that has some nice carryover. And I think it's just a matter of time before we link arms with them and jump down the rabbit hole together,
Hmm.
and see what happens. But great
And it's
presentation. Let's
right.
hear who else. Cliff Barrickman from Finding
Uh,
Bigfoot. He was there. We also, on a side note, me, Tobe, Brett, Jill, yeah, going down the list. Todd and Cliff. We all had an Airbnb together. So that was like a reality show in and of itself. No cameras were rolling, and that's partially why we missed our live stream last Thursday. We
uh,
ended up, on a side note, we ended up going out into the woods that night, and all of a sudden it was like 8:30 or 8:40, and I was like, oh, well, crap, we missed it. So
well, but let's talk about this Airbnb just for a second. It was a beautiful two-story A-frame cabin on the side of a hill, and
mhm.
the moon was glowing bright red because of the smoke. So every night that I could, I would hop in the hot tub and watch this moon rise, to the chagrin of the fact that nobody else seemed to bring a bathing suit. If I'm staying at an Airbnb, just assume that I'm looking for a pool and a good time. That's just me. It's very Chris Farley-esque. So yeah, I think Todd Neese took part at one key moment here. I'm telling you, go to these conferences here because the after party is kind of the real thing here. You may come for the speakers. I get it, but after the stars come out, the Sasquatch comes out, and so do the real adventure. So thank you again to Priscilla Roseman for doing that.
Yeah, yeah. She got. I think we got the best Airbnb in the area. I would totally go back there too. I would totally rent that place out
Oh yeah.
for an adventure. Um, let's start going down the list. Dr. Robert Alley. He was there. Gwendolyn Guthrie came out from Ohio. Jason Kenzie and his film team from Searching Sasquatch were there, and they were running around filming the whole time. Um, Christy Sanders and Doug Meacham had to cancel, unfortunately. He was going to do a live hypnotherapy session
Mm.
on stage, but that he had an emergency come up. And then I'm going to include him as one of the speakers and presenters just because I think he was just as involved and busy running around as the rest of us. But Jeremiah Byron from
Mm,
the Bigfoot
mm,
Society podcast,
hmm.
he was there too. And at the very so at the very end, he got called up for the Q&A because someone in the audience had a specific question about the Patterson Gimlin film for Jeremiah. It was very focused. Were you still around for that, or did you take off? Were you there?
No, no, I saw him come up. It was a perfect opportunity for him to get up there and speak. He should have been up there the whole time
Yeah.
because he's, he's put in his dues, as they say. So we've been talking since the festival's over, and the adventure still goes on. We'll talk about what happened after the conference was over here in a minute.
Yeah, but and like these conferences, I swear, you hear people like even on our channel, we share these interviews, we talk about who presented and what, but the best stories and the best encounters and the best information, you hear those from the people you're sitting next to, or the
Hmm.
person you're waiting in line behind to grab a bottle of water. It's crazy. Like, I heard so many amazing stories just hanging out at the booth. And I encourage you, find a conference, go meet people, and start swapping stories.
I just have to say, this is where the record skips and stops. A special thank you to Brett and Jill for my Tiffany's box in blue, because out of nowhere I received this urgent gift, and as I open it up, um, I'm thinking I'm going to get some china. I'm not getting. There's no one getting
Diamonds.
born. There's no marriage happening, and I open up this box, and there is this brown bomber coat that is just that beautiful brown bomber jacket. And it turns out that the bomber jacket belongs to the estate of this guy, and it is Peter Byrne's bomber jacket with hydrocal stains, what appear to be plaster hydrocal finger smudges, as though maybe he was casting this print. uh, I don't know, but I mean, it still blows me away that I own that coat, and that somebody else doesn't own it, because it is a museum piece, right? Like, we have images of Peter in that coat. There was an auction. Was it at Beachfoot?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's
Yeah.
impressive. No, I don't have it on right now because I want to put it in a shadow box. Like, I probably shouldn't wear it as much as I want to. I think it belongs on the wall with like pictures and stuff like that. But I'm willing to wear it one more time for a photograph and drink some Bigfoot pee.
Well, you know what? When we saw that at Beachfoot for the auction, I was like, Tobe needs this. He needs
He
this
does.
for adventures. So I went up and I grabbed it. And I wish I'd been more discreet. Maybe I could have walked away quietly with it. No, no, because the money goes for a good. It was for a scholarship. So we were happy to support Kathy's cause. Um, yeah, yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Jill.
Of course, of course. And the Tiffany's box, we're trying to find something for it to fit into, and I happened
Oh,
to,
it was perfect.
for whatever reason, I still had this big blue Tiffany and Co.
Yeah.
Box from there was a wedding gift in it from however many years ago, and I was like, oh, it's a perfect fit.
I'm gonna try to live up to the adventure that guy had in all his many outfits, but especially that coat, because it is every bit as cool as you can think of as a bomber jacket could be. It's just so Indiana Jones from head to toe, and he was just such a real life. I mean, the Jimmy Stewart story alone is so crazy, but think of the stories we don't know.
Oh, right. And I guess Todd Neese would be the person to talk to for
Yeah.
those stories, because he collected Peter's whole collection, all his files of
Wow.
research and whatnot. So I'm sure there's some gems in there. He's shared some
Hmm.
information with us that hasn't been shared, that I'm like, oh, we might have to look into that. So
Okay.
Yeah, but it was overall great weekend. I think we had quite between your booth and our booth, we had quite the party headquarters going on. Between Jeff Rohn and Chris Kramer, and then Jerry Hine right next to you.
Oh yes.
It was the party section of the
Yeah.
booth.
And we're already kind of talking 2025. So take note of the things that maybe need tweaking, amplify the stories we've told you. It's definitely going to be a place to hang out next year times a million. So more to that to come, I think, in the probably coming months before we get into announcing a date.
Very cool, very cool. And yeah, and also Jeff Rohn, I know you're watching. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and keeping us company and supporting our booth and just having fun. And also, Pam, da, 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 da,
Oh shoot.
I received a gift, this beautiful A Flash of Beauty with the ravens chatting it up. I love it. I'm not sure if that's where it's gonna stay. I need
Yeah.
to reorganize over here, but I thought it
Yeah.
all worked.
I want to mention real too. Cliff Barrickman gave me a really good discount on a hand cast from somebody by the name of Tom Shea, cast in 2016 in Henry County, Kentucky. Tom Shea was DOD recon when Noriega got arrested, and he's actually on video during that whole episode that happened. So his background's pretty crazy, right? Like he's got this great military background, but he's also a Bigfooter now. I looked him up, and he's got quite the collection of stuff going on. So the provenance of this is there. It's an incredible hand impression there. You know, a lot of people look at the Paul Freeman hand impression, and unfortunately, one of the things that happened is when Paul removed the plaster out of the dirt and the blues, the fingertips broke off.
Oh.
And so that's part of the struggle of casting prints. But these ones held in place, and it shows this weird thumb anomaly where the thumb almost drops down into the lower part of the wrist. So thank you, Cliff, for the discount on that hand impression.
And what were you doing? Was it at the booth or was it at the Airbnb where you were measuring the distance between like the?
Oh yeah,
What were you doing?
What we were trying to do is, I don't want to nerd out here too much, but the index finger here goes at a 90-degree angle. I don't know if you can see that. This is the index finger, and it's going at a 90-degree angle. So that would be the first knuckle. And then the thumb is way down here at the lower point. So what we were trying to do was measure the distance between the high point of where the knuckle is to the lowest part I could get my thumb. And you can't quite get to the proper angle of it all. So if this was done by a man, they had a very strange hand, and it was much lower in the thumb area. All things being fair. So we're just being nerds. We had a tape measure, and we thought, oh, we'll just do crazy stuff with our hand.
Yeah.
I got to put my Bigfoot pee on its new poster. There we
Pedestal.
go. Yeah, I like that.
Very good.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
So we dropped a new interview yesterday. Did you have a chance to watch Rick Taylor's full interview?
Jill, I've got so many notes here that we don't have time probably to get into it all. But heck yeah, there's stuff I didn't know, baby. Stuff I never seen. Uncle Brett never sent me, but I want to deliver it to the people from the mountaintops.
Now, I do have to say, before we get into this, we were on the phone earlier, and you're like, "Oh, did Rick have the sighting of the ghost girl on Arla's property?"
Mm-hmm.
Did we had that conversation? I'm not going crazy, right?
We did, but I didn't catch him talking about it in this interview.
He did, and then because I watched it just a couple hours ago. because I was like, wait a minute, did we talk about that off camera, or were we talking about that with Arla? Did it happen somewhere in there? There was a conversation off camera about seeing a little ghost girl. So
Hmm.
I just wanted to throw that out there before we got too far into it.
Okay, well, take it away.
So Rick Taylor, if you have not watched his interview yet, there will be some spoilers or some in-depth discussion, but it's still a delightful interview, and I encourage you to watch it. If you're a stickler over those types of things, just catch up with us and watch this on the replay. So Rick's story is interesting. Starts out, he has an encounter with something while he's out with his son night fishing. And that kind of piqued his interest and whatnot. And so he started doing Bigfoot research, and eventually, right out of the gates, he gets into it. He gets into the experience he had at Arla's property. So feel free to jump in at any time, because
Well,
I'm just gonna give a recap here. Um,
okay. Well, first of all, to go from an initial sighting to an infamous drum builder in her own right and an extended experiencer in her own right and a kind of a known quantity for, I mean, at least over 20 years, right? It's a pretty big move. And Rick is just like, he doesn't care about drums as much as he loves what Arlo's doing. He wants to have an experience. So
mhm.
that's the drive, is to figure out what tossed the giant rock.
Yeah, so and he talks about how other people there, like he was out there going through the woods, wanting to have this experience so bad. And he was getting frustrated because other people who weren't searching for these experiences were like, oh, I had a sighting. Oh, I'm experiencing stuff. So that
Hmm.
was kind of a rub. And he gets into, if you saw the sequel, he dives right in about how basically Arla took him to meet the family of Sasquatch on her property. And there's a lot we leave out in our movie. And is interesting. Did you catch the part where when he did have the visual and they're on the trail, the male started swaying from side to side? How many times do we hear about that?
Mm.
We heard Todd Neese talk about that, when he had his sighting at the when they were doing the explosions. And the fact that his encounter was able to see an entire family is just mind melting and amazing in and of itself.
Okay. Sorry, I got a little distracted there because I saw a YouTube violation that just happened. We'll talk about that later, but
Oh, okay,
go
I see
ahead.
that. Oh, okay. Wild West here. Look out. Now, so he sees like the kind of the patriarch, the matriarch, the younger ones, and then like out of the bushes, like hand hands blazing, like a little toddler just running for a grown up, comes a baby squatch in his direction, and his description of that and the emotions he goes through is definitely worth listening to.
There's so many things going on with Rick's encounter here, and I just want to go back a little bit to his frustration of getting on site to Arla's and really putting in the work as far as all the acreage Arla offers and the promise of having an experience, because she's kind of like a Squatch whisperer and she can, summon them and call them in. And Rick is just like, come on, where's my. And then he goes back to like, Arla's little hut or her house, because she used to have like a little tiny modular hut where she lived for a while. Um, and these women just arrive And they're like, "Oh, we just had an experience," and they're like out in the woods for like 15 minutes and see a tree picker. And here's Rick, with night vision, crawling in corners like Johnny Dagger, and not having an experience. So I sympathize with that big time. In fact, he says it wasn't fair. It just wasn't fair, and he had that sense of frustration. And we should say Rich is a lawman, right? Like he has an interesting law. He doesn't really get into exactly if he was a detective. Does he say if he's a detective or what was his?
He was Brett, help me out in the chat. He worked in like fire, like arson type
Oh, okay.
detective. Like that was
Nice.
his area of
Okay.
expertise. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so he's on walkie-talkies the entire time he's there, which is a good idea. And they're keeping track of one another when they leave an area. And so he goes out to an area to try to elicit experiences, and ends up actually doing it slowly a couple times. The first time he kind of had to be told that something was on the edge of the trees, paying attention to what he was saying, like, "I would really like to see you." So he didn't catch that. But then the second experience, Arla kind of just as it just finds him in the dark. Like there's lots of acreage, and here comes Arla, just like beelining to him in the dark, and say, basically, "Let me show you the way, young Padawan," and takes him off to the Dagobah system for his training. And there they have this amazing encounter with a family of Sasquatch, and Rick's details,
Yeah.
especially when it gets to Chaka, the baby squatch monkey, running at him like it's having full on, you know, a sugar high at a Chuck E. Cheese. And Rick's response to it, it was just incredible. I mean, the details there. I mean, I'm frustrated now, Rick. If you ever see this, damn it, 20 years later, I ain't never had no Chaka run at me. But then Rick gets into the paranormal stuff because he says some people say the stuff follows you home, and he says the damnedest things here.
Yeah.
Um, I've never heard these stories.
Oh, so those were new to you? Now,
Oh yeah.
did so what struck me was how the similarities of what Rick was experiencing at home with like what Daryl Adams was
Mm,
experiencing. Also, if you're familiar with Scott Pace in Louisiana and what he's gone through and his Bigfoot dogman experiences that followed him home, a
mhm.
lot of similarities.
Oh yeah, a lot of similar. I mean, even before Chaka ran up to him, they mind speak with him, and they say something very similar to what's in um, my story, which is a point when one of the witnesses with me, a guy by the name of Todd, says, "I shouldn't have brought a gun. They're mad I brought a gun." Rick says almost the exact same thing. And he admits the fact that it's such a crazy feeling admitting that you have mind speak. So they amped up the amplitude to really deliver it home. And they say, "Move away from Arla." Now we get into that a little bit in A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, but what we don't get into is how there's a time slip, because as all this is happening
Yeah.
to them, 5 minutes have passed, but to people outside of the moment, 30 minutes has passed. And the same thing happened to us when Todd was up in the woods and almost threw his sidearm into the Cottage Grove brush. Is that time was different for us. Time, it would just seem to go longer in this case. But regardless, um, the juvie running up to, you got to hear it. There's a lot of stories in there. I think everybody's going to love the idea of Chaka running towards um, running towards the ex-lawman.
Definitely so. And then Rick kind of fast forwards and talks about, having these encounters and these experiences. So he is part Cherokee and I believe he said Choctaw. And he really gets back into kind of embracing his indigenous heritage and embracing the culture and like learning the language and whatnot. And he even did some experiments being out in the field researching where they were having activity where he would he would speak in Cherokee and try to interact, and he actually got a response. So I thought that, I mean, it wasn't, they didn't sit down and have a chat, but
Hmm.
it was just kind of interesting that the response he got back kind of, it all kind of made sense. So
You would think there would be a sense of respect for humans going back to their roots. I would think that that would garner some kind of a attention off of a family group or individuals. Like, oh, he's trying, he's so that's interesting.
well, yeah, it's like when you go to a foreign country. When you go to France,
Right.
you try,
Yeah.
you may not pronounce bonjour correctly. You're, even if you're like
Right.
bonjour, it's like,
Right.
oh, bless their heart, they tried. Um, One of the other, speaking of kind of the weird stuff,
Uh-huh.
he
Go ahead.
also he talks about one of the events where they had a sighting, but there were also these 3 foot type
Keep talking. I'll fix
alien
this.
things.
Uh-huh.
Um, little things with bulbous heads running around. He's like, I don't know what those critters were all about, but there's more than Bigfoot out in the forest. I think that's a reminder. And it kind of reminds me of a story we heard that a researcher
Mhm.
had in Southern Oregon. But I digress.
Well, there's a couple of other incidents here too that he mentioned. In particular, the water in the car, the inexplicable water in the float. So, I mean, going back to the idea that there's a hitchhiker effect with this phenomena, we did talk about that this weekend with people that were skeptical over the issue. And here's what I have to say about it is that when the phenomena comes to your house inside your own house, you don't know if you have a poltergeist, a ghost, or a demon, or what. But it seems to be elicited and related to things that you talked about or moments in the field with Sasquatch activity, including giant rocks being moved about. This is something else that happened to Rick was
Yeah.
giant boulders being moved around. Um, he mentioned that he went out into his car and there's inexplicable amount of water floating for no reason, to the point where the floor mat was floating on the side of the car. There's one other thing that he mentioned as well. I want to make sure that I mention that here. Um, I can't find it here. Oh, the screws on the fence. So
That was weird.
that was something that Daryl and I witnessed firsthand. Is that fence boards were? And you'd ask David Ellis about this. This is totally a thing for habituators and fence boards popping off and finding them popped off. But Rick was saying screws, decking screws, were pulled out by hand. Well, these things happen. I mean, I witnessed this myself with Daryl, seeing long deck fences in the side of the tree at the Al Moon Lab that had been plucked out of the tree, seemingly by hand. Um, and the story goes on from there. But he was saying so much that was simpatico with the real dollar bill that I'm telling you, like out of all the witnesses here, we should have given maybe Rick a little more camera time because this is quite the story.
We can always go back. We can always talk to people again, and
I
maybe
know, I know, I know.
we can do another round.
Okay,
But you know what? We're gonna, when we start doing the podcast again, we'll catch up
okay,
with him
yes,
and we'll do a
yes,
recap. Yes,
yes,
yes, yes.
yes.
Um, and the only other thing I want to add is he did say they'd be out in the field, and for whatever reason he didn't know what they had to do with each other or what caused it, but there'd be a Bigfoot sighting. They were experiencing or witnessing lights in the sky, triangle shaped crafts with lights on them doing their thing.
Hmm.
He's like, I don't know what it means. I'm just telling you what happened, which we
Yeah.
appreciate.
No, and he does it with a sense of humility, and I
Oh,
mean you
yeah.
can tell that he's got the bug though. Like he's a lifer for good.
how could you not be? How do you, I mean, how do you have those experiences and just say, well, that was fun, I'm out? I mean, I think you just, it pulls you
We know those
in.
kind of people.
Yeah, either there's two ways of looking at, you're either
Mm,
gonna, you're searching for enlightenment or,
mhm,
the answers, or it's going to destroy you. And
yeah.
I mean, where you get that tunnel vision, and we watch it, we, at these conferences, you meet all types of people, and you can, you meet some people who've just become so obsessed with it. It's like you need to come up for air, and look around,
Oh yeah.
and, yeah. So yeah, Rick, definitely, if you haven't watched it, watch his interview.
Mhm.
If you've only watched it once, go back, watch it again. It's that good.
Yeah, he also did mention, I should say, that his electronics were messed with, and he goes into some detail about how frustrating it was and what kind of equipment, and how Arla seemed to be in command. Listen, there's people like Arla. I knew one of them. Her name was Beth, and when Beth would go out in the woods with you, stuff would start, and she seemed to be able to like direct it, and they paid attention to her, not us, but everybody knew. And we weren't all faking it. Like the Olympic Project knew her, and they put her in a house out here in Harstein Island, the same house that Rich Germeau had a Sasquatch encounter. Um, and we just all knew that people like Arla existed. Sometimes they're like Daryl, who just jumped online. Daryl's another magnet for this phenomena. I don't think I am. So I don't know what that is. They don't all like have Rh negative blood. They're not all abductees. They're not all like Mensa members. So it's just they're interested in certain people, and if you can be in their window area, then you can ride along and kind of enjoy this journey if you're willing to take it. Now I sound like Jeff Goldblum. Ooh, the
Ooh.
fly. Ooh, yes, large. Go ahead.
So what it on the Jeff Goldblum, the Fly,
Yeah, yes.
just to go on a different, just humor me. So imagine if you got into that machine and you were holding like Sasquatch hair or evidence of some sort. What
It'd
would
just be
happen?
Bigfoot pee everywhere.
Well, it's like, actually, you know what would happen? It'd be someone would say, I have this alleged Bigfoot hair, and they come out and they're half elk or something, like, oh no, I was wrong.
I, that's when we need our endorsement from Manscaped for moments like that. Work on that one.
Let me write it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of incredible tales and journeys and adventures, can you give us an update the the winning tickets that were found for
I
Olympic
know. You
Strange
need to put
Days?
your Krampus bells on. We have a winner, winner, winner. Do 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 do. G.I. Jane Marshall, also known as Indiana Jane, is the grand winner of the Olympic Strange Days treasure hunt. And God bless her soul. She worked on it off and on for a week. Now, it wasn't as though it was a week's worth of work. It just life happens. And so, Jane, I don't know if you're on the chat, in the chat, but I imagine you're a little tired. She was so excited. There's a magnificent picture of her at the final stage. And so let me just tell people what happened here. You had to figure out a cipher, a Masonic cipher called a pigpen cipher. And once you figured out that you could go on Google and just basically look at the codes, you could write it out real quick. And it told you, first of all, treasure map one, a la Nancy Fry, who built these amazing treasure maps in the nick of time for us. Um, you found out that you went to Port Townsend. To where else? Um, you went to the Rothschilds' manor up on the hill. And once you got to the Rothschild, now the Rothschilds are something of legend, cone-headed banksters, right? And their stuff of legend as far as conspiracy is concerned. Some of them have cone heads, not all of them. But once you get to the Rothschilds' house, there's a red string that was tied around an ornate doorknob. And so this is all within a riddle that I wrote along with the ciphers. And so you find the ornate doorknob and you turn and you look at the video I shot, and it shows you where to turn, and you have to look at the holy pew. And once you look out over the ocean there, you can see that there's only one place that has a holy pew, and that's a church. And in the church is a symbol which will lead you to stage 2. So stage 2 took you to, I don't really want to say the name right now, but it took you to an archaeological, geographical, spiritual power spot that also had a stone hallway, a legitimate, and I wish you were here, Jane, but it had a giant stone hallway. And so you go through the stone hallway, and then you have to go off grid 30 steps and find the downed tree. And on the tree was a long black rope tied to a root ball, and you found a wooden board with a spiral symbol. So you're now on map 3. Map 3 is your final map. You take a 30-minute drive and you go to the staircase to nowhere. Now, the staircase to nowhere is a godsend place for Bigfooters. It's absolutely the place where the staircase to nowhere is being studied by not only the Olympic Project, but from archaeologists in the Navy. Not only because of the archaeological finds going there, but because of all the Bigfoot stuff happening. It's a very well-known spot, but I didn't take them directly to the hot zone. It's within the zone of interest. And so this literally is a staircase in the middle of the woods headed to nowhere. Like there was an old cabin there at one time, it's gone. And so you break the riddle, you find the tickets, right? 2 free tickets to Olympic Strange Days, the 26th and 29th, the sold out event. Now Jane has 2 free tickets to invite friends and family if she wants to. Also, there's an after party. I just went to the Hamma Oyster Saloon. And by the way, you don't have to love oysters. You just have to love beer and appetizers. Seafood is just part of the mix, right? And they're super stoked to have us there on the 29th. It's a free event. It's at the Hamma Oyster Saloon from 3 to 6 o'clock. And Brett and Jill and myself are going to be there along with Simeon Hine, Rich Germeau, Barb Shoop, and 30 other crazy people. And we're going to show some movies, talk some Squatch, and drink some beer. You can find out more at olympicstrangedays.com. And then you can see the picture of the treasure hunt. I just put it up of Jane holding her prize in her hand at the staircase to nowhere. So congratulations to Indiana Jane. And I guess get ready for 2025 scavenger hunt.
No, I have questions because I was, even during the live streams when you give out clues, I was like, I don't know what the hell that means. Good luck, folks. How did Jane, like, was she just kind of piecing it together, or how long did it really take her to figure this out?
Well, so the puzzle started at home, and like I said, all you really had to do is just read it along and decode the cipher. Once you were able to decode the cipher, you're able to find where to go on the map. So nothing made sense on its own. It just was
Okay.
like pieces, but the cipher was really the key. And it's hard to find a good cipher, Jill. And I'm really proud of the pig pen cipher. I plan to get a tattoo. I'm actually going to get a tattoo with a pig pen cipher on my arm.
What does it look like? I know nothing of ciphers other than that one of those opening scenes from, what was it, Spies Like Us, with
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase.
Yeah, if it's easier to have people look it up, but basically A through Z are all put inside a tic-tac-toe grid. So A goes in one corner, B in the other. And so for everywhere there's a letter in a tic-tac-toe square is a shape in the corner. So A is in that part of the corner, B is in this part of the corner, C is in this. And so those shapes are the cipher, right? So it's the shape of the tic-tac-toe squares the letters are in. And that's how you decoded it. And you could only find it if you looked for it.
Interesting.
See now, okay, you say that, and I say ciphers aren't for you, but they may be for other people, Jill.
I'm open-minded. I'm open to ciphers. I'm open to all codes.
We
And
used to do scavenger hunts as like after we made scavenger hunts. Didn't you guys do scavenger hunts? Did nobody do scavenger hunts in college? Was it?
no.
It might have been a Springfield thing. Like we were crawling under schools looking for like antique vases with messages.
Oh, you
This was
know
like,
what? Well, okay, so in Portland, they used to do around Rose Festival time. They would do the Rose Festival medallion,
yeah,
like they'd hide it somewhere, and like every
yeah.
day they give clues, or maybe it was like every like Sunday
Mm.
Oregonian when they had a paper, uh, and people would go nuts. And I think one year Brett came really close to finding it, um,
There's
but he
that
didn't.
amazing cipher going on. It's still happening right now. I know Josh Gates actually helped figure out part of it, but it's all part of like a book series. And there's these incredible like fantasy paintings in there. And there's actual like rubies and stuff and actual pots of gold hidden around America. You just have to figure these ciphers out. But I don't know. You think of like oh, what's that Nicolas Cage movie?
National
Uh,
Treasure.
yes, I wanted people to have an Indiana Jones National Treasure, and I wanted to direct them. And it's also, to be honest, it was a way to kind of potentially weed people out for a real life adventure in September, because someone got a hold of me today and said, "Is this just going to be another conference of talking heads?" And I said, "No, look at the website. That's not at all what is being offered. It's a way for you to be in the field and have an experience. Like we're coming from the old school of like, if we build it, they will come. So we're
Mhm.
going to the location with an open mind, and we're not going there to do talking head stuff at all. So actually, there's an email sent out today for all the ticket. If there's anybody here that bought a ticket, you should check your email. We're actually doing an orientation this Saturday, this Sunday, and August 2nd. And we'll do orientations like every 2 weeks until the event for people to have tickets. And included in that is the location and what to be expected and any questions you have. So it's not a regular conference. It's not a conference at all. It's a freaking field experience adventure of a lifetime.
You've been posting a lot of Bohemian Grove stuff on Facebook. Will there be a giant owl?
Oh my gosh. Have you watched any of that?
I have. I think I watched just I not this recent one, not the daylight
Mm.
Bohemian Grove invasion, but
Oh, the
the one
kids.
from when at night
Mhm.
where they're checking it out, and I'm like, I don't have a good view. I'm not interested.
Well, you should listen to the words, because the words are enough, my dear. If those words are being spoken to the one percenters, we all got a problem. But what I will say is that if a place like that exists, then there's the opposite, the Frodo world that exists as well. That is where we're going. We're not going to Sauron. We're going to Hobbiton. That's my goal.
The
And then we're
Shire?
taking to the opposite of Bohemian Grove. We're taking to, um, you know, Nancy and Toby Grove, and that's what we plan on doing. In fact, Rich Germeau just left my place after putting in these beautiful live edge shelves in our kitchen. He's been here all day, and we talked plenty about a secondary place to go look for, just in case there's wildfires. So
Mm,
we have
yeah.
contingency plans.
Very good. Speaking of forest fires, our updates for what we're putting together in Baker City for October. We'll have more details. They're dealing with fires and whatnot. So just kind of put that in the back of your mind that we're putting together something
Yeah,
something special, a little gathering of sorts, out in Baker City in October. So just make a note.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen the footage of those fires yet. I understand quite a bit of Canada is being hit, as well as
Yeah.
eastern Washington.
Mm. Sad. Sad stuff. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I want to end tonight's live stream on an up note. And I want to talk about a little flash sale that the Flash of Beauty folks want to put on here, because I have an excess of t-shirts left over from Oak Ridge.
Oh, nice.
I loaded up. I didn't know what to expect, but I mean, people were more interested in water than shirts. So, usually we retail these for, the shirts are $30 each. Um, we'll do them. You know what? $30. We'll handle all the shipping and handling and all that fun stuff. Um, it smells like Oregon forest fire, so it's almost as if I was burning a special scented candle next to it.
Yeah.
And we'll even do, let's do two for 50, all shipping and handling and that fun stuff. I've got every size except for large. So if you're interested,
Mm.
hit me up on our email or on Facebook, info@bigfootdoc.com, and I'll let you know what I've got for colors. Yeah. They all
That's
need
great.
good homes. They all need good homes.
Well, I tell you what, if anybody wants 2 wood watchers, one with his tongue sticking out, I got a 2-foot wood watcher with his tongue sticking out, and a couple other little trinkets. I'll put those up online. But
I
yeah,
can't I can't believe that one didn't sell. That was the one everyone was like, "Oh, look at that. It's so cute." And
I know.
whenever you stepped away from the booth and there were
Oh.
people looking,
Mm.
I mean, I waved you over when people were like, "I want to see the evidence," because I've
Oh,
done
right,
that.
right,
I've done your
right.
presentation like at McMinnville UFO Fest. I was like, I'm not
Mm.
in the mood to do that. I tell everyone that all of the carvings needed a good home.
That's
Like
so
they
good.
all need a good home. This
Jill, you're so good to my booth.
I try. I do unto others as I would like them to, sell my stuff. So
I mean, it's actually a lot of fun having booths with the right people. Having a booth is a lot of work because you're kind of boots on the ground, and you have to be on, and you can't really close your booth. I mean, I guess you could put up a sign, or just pass out in your chair and put a towel over your face. But for the most time, you're on. But having a good booth buddy, I had Jerry Hine, the pirate of the Sierras, and I had you guys over on the right, and we were just, it was always funny. Like we had people wouldn't leave. It was pretty funny. It's just like they're putting up their chairs, like, oh, this is the cool spot to hang out. I was like, you're affecting sales, son of a.
I think at one point, so I had, okay, lesson learned. So if you're ever going to have do a conference and you're thinking about being a vendor and having a booth, keep a table up front. I got this idea. I was like, oh, I'll open the booth up and I'll put a table to one side with, because we had a TV out playing our trailers and Ron Moorhead's project, and then like some shirts and merch, and then I had like a C stand, like a whole like wardrobe rack, so to speak, of shirts. Everyone just started bringing their chairs in. So I, I
Mm.
think for between between me, Brett, Mike, Jeff Rohn, Chris Kramer, that's 5, and then you were right next door to us, and then there was a inebriated woman who was very angry who
Oh,
decided
I missed that. While
to
I was
take
on
my
stage,
chair.
apparently I wasn't doing my part. I wasn't
Oh,
entertaining enough for her. I guess I need to be more Sam Kinison instead of Jerry Seinfeld for this one. She was
dude,
not having it.
that was like, yeah, she was wild, and yeah,
I missed it. The cops came.
we had to get
I
law
forgot that
enforcement
part.
involved.
Yeah.
So never a dull moment at the A Flash of Beauty
Oh,
booth.
and a thank you to the corner bar that stayed open extra late and handed out venison.
Wait, when
That's a
was
good deal.
that?
That was night 1. After they close up the shop, I think the guy lives there, and anyway, we were invited in after 10 o'clock to have like bear straps. At least Cliff was,
We
and
wandered in after that. We showed up after that. Me, Brett, and Mike.
I guess my point is, if you go to the corner bar in Oak Ridge after 10 o'clock, just tell them Flash of Beauty sent you, and you might get some venison.
Oh yes, he was very welcoming.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's a whole other story
yeah.
for a different live stream. But yeah, good times. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
think. Is there anything else we're forgetting? You guys
Someone
are.
wants to see those shirts again, Jill. Can you flash
Oh,
those shirts again?
can I flash them? So okay. So for those of you that have see the light, so Flash of Beauty, the paranormal is normal. Then on the back, a Flash of Beauty, paranormal Bigfoot. Then if you're more traditional, a little more straight lace, like this would be respectable for like your grandma. And then on the back, a Flash of Beauty Bigfoot reveal. We had some wild cards in the shirts. There's a couple blue ones, like bright, like electric blue that are
uh,
they look good. We also the printer threw in some pink and blue tie-dyed shirts. Those went
oh,
fast.
oh, really? People responded.
People were loving the tie-dye, and I found out when I picked these up they also have camo that I could have been ordering this whole time.
Okay.
So yeah, I am not doing a sale on the hats though. We have
Yeah.
hats. I'm gonna keep those for next time.
I would. Yeah. They're
Yeah,
beautiful hats.
they are
Beautiful hats.
beautiful.
The last thing I'll say is that there was a little hullabaloo after we left. And I think I saw Jeremiah on the chat
Oh,
here, but you're welcome to mention this, Jeremiah. You did get a report. Jeremiah did his due diligence as far as like being a reporter, immersing himself in the environment, and he actually got a report the day, I think the day before he left, and it involved a roadside crossing on the major highway 58. And he followed up on it, and seemingly, according to the photographs, found some handprints of what appear to be, greasy handprints on the other side of the metal rail as something jumped off around the bend. Um, I don't know where things stand as far as documentation are concerned, or where people are at with the photographs I've seen. But I'm just telling you, like, this is how you actually have an experience: is you have to chase after all of these reports, and 10% of them are going to be worth your time, but you got to do the other 90%, and that's what Jeremiah is doing. So Jeremiah, heal up, my man. Good talking to you the last couple of days, and I will see you in the trees.
good work, everybody. Good work.
I don't know
Stay
about you, but I'm gonna
hydrated.
go pour some of this fine Bigfoot pee on ice, and fall asleep to some YouTube, and go out weed whacking in the morning.
Well, make sure you wear something covering your mouth so you don't get poison oak or poison ivy ingested. So yeah,
Very, very
if
wise
you know,
words.
you know. Okay,
Hmm.
everyone, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Congratulations, Jane.
Yay!
All
Alrighty,
right.
bye, Tobe.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.